Well, it looks like we are live. It says live up in the corner there. So, hey, adventurers, welcome back. I am T. This is Kate. We are an Erudite Adventure, and thank you guys for coming. This is 1,000 subscribers and 5 years on BookTube Q&A. So, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I've got some other ones that I'll be compiling here into a list to ask. I don't have them compiled all into one location yet, so that's what I'm going to do real quickly here. And Kate's going to talk while I do that.
Yes, we're super excited to have a Q&A here. We've been asking for some questions to hear what you guys think, but as we answer them, if you have any other questions that maybe you forgot to submit or didn't realize that you could, or think of something new, you can go ahead and put that in the chat box for the video, and we're happy to look at those. It is 5 years, which is crazy. That 5 years has passed just as time generally passes.
If you probably forgot how awkward we are together, but
I don't think anyone can forget that. But
pretty bad.
Excited to be back. Excited to be here.
Yes. Keep talking. I'm not.
We're still in the old filming location too with books.
Yes, because the current filming location does not yet have bookshelves. And so we're going back here because there's books.
Top shelf is recommendations always. So if our conversation gets really dull, just take a look at the titles and you can find books that I recommend to everybody. So, well, when we started BookTube, we had this vision of being able to tell people to talk about things that we loved and tell people about something that we loved, which was books. And Teague has been really dedicated in this. I faded off after a couple of years. I wanted to invest my time in other things more. So it's been a little bit of an imbalance in our presence here, but I think it's pretty cool that we've been able to go 5 years still talking about books, which is things that we're passionate, something we're excited about. So
yeah. And one of the other, so as you can tell from our channel name, which is an Erudite Adventure, it has been an adventure for us. It's been something where we've intentionally sought out stories and literature that we could study and learn from. And obviously it's for enjoyment, it's for entertainment as well. But we wanted to go on this adventure of learning. So erudite is a term for somebody who's studious, who has studied, who has researched, who is learning. And so that's kind of the idea of this, is we're on this adventure to learn through reading.
We were homeschooled, so I think that played an influence in it. We did a lot of learn through reading for homeschooling, and that's my favorite way to learn. I think it's the most impressionable. I think that's part of why I like to read historical fiction so much, why it's one of the genres that I love to read, because it places you in a time period in history and gives you these characters and these details to suddenly make it come alive and become vivid. And a lot of times after I read a historical fiction, it causes me to do more research, to figure out more things. It helped me remember dates better when dates are included in books, which sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's a little more vague about it. But those types of stories are the ones that really help me understand history and understand how it applied to individual people, making it personal. When we study history in school via lectures or textbooks, a lot of times it's easy to see the big picture, and it's really important to see the big picture, but it is also important to see the individual persons and characteristics.
Yeah. So before we get into questions, what are we reading currently?
I have three current reads. We're going to go with 3. I'm reading a book called The Proud Counterpoint by Bodhi Theon. It was over there, so I was looking at it. It's historical fiction, and it's book 2 in the Zion Covenant series. So I'm about halfway through it, and it's in the dark. You know how every book kind of has a part in the middle where things look really dark and bleak? That's where we're at. In the middle of World War II, everything's looking dark and bleak. And that's why I had to switch to some other books, because it was too dark and bleak and I could only read a little bit at a time. I'm also reading Book of 1,000 Days by Shannon Hale, which you can see on the back of the bookshelf there.
Our RIP shelf. Reading in progress.
My brain laughed.
It comes from the idea of a WIP, a work in progress, and so we just changed it to a reading in progress because we're awkward like that.
Yeah. Anyhow, I'm reading this. It's actually a middle grade, but I enjoy Shannon Hale's books, so I picked it up one day when I wanted a break from Prague Counterpoint. And I'm also listening. My audiobook right now is Anne of Green Gables. It's the third one in the series, and I can't think of what it's called. Can I look? Or
Yeah, go
you
ahead.
have to talk.
Okay, I will talk. So the first one that you can see that's on the rip shelf for me is Tribe of the Accord by Sean Michael Stone. This is a self-published fantasy. It's got like it's tied into like a video game that the author has been developing or has created or something as well. The author reached out to me, asked me to read it, and so it is a one where I've been I was sent it by the author and have been requested to read and review it. I will get to it when I get to it. I'm slowly working through it. I am currently like 6 months behind on reviews. I just filmed my November review, or one of my reviews for November. So we're like 6 months behind on reviews. So it'll be a while, even if I do get it finished soon, before the review comes out of it. But it's a, how do you describe it? It's kind of like almost like a prehistoric fantasy story type thing where the characters are, I don't want to call them cavemen, but essentially cavemen, where there's not much in terms of society. There's tribes that wander around, they hunt, they forage, stuff like that. Very there's a term that I can't think of for it, but very much that sort of idea. And so far I'm enjoying it. I'm about a quarter of the way through. Yeah, let's see. About a quarter of the way through. Oh, that's almost looks like a third of the way through, but it takes me it takes me a long time to physically read things, and so I go through it very slowly, especially right now, when even though it takes me a long time to physically read, it takes me even longer when I don't have time to physically read as well. So that's the problem with it.
The name of the Anne of Green Gables I'm reading is Anne of the Island. It's book 3 in the series. I've read it before, but I don't remember it well. And book 4 is where I stopped in the series, and I want to pick it back up. So I'm starting 3 to refresh my memory, and then I'll continue on, hopefully.
So what else? I've got a couple other books that I'm reading. I have an ebook currently going. So basically I have time on my lunch break, about 20 minutes on my lunch break, that I can read an ebook. And so I am currently reading Protectors of Britannia, Protectors of Britannia is a series. Book 4 is Desperate Dispatches by Mike Mulman. And this is fun. This is druidic fantasy. It's like a fictional, historical British Isles type story. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, the series, and I've really enjoyed the books. And this is the first time that I've physically, or I read one with my eyes. Usually I listen to the books. The audiobook narrator is great for them, but also I had this one. I have them all physically, and I have them all on ebook. And this one I don't think has an audiobook yet. So I needed one to read, and I was like, oh, let's do this one, since I actually want to get to it sooner rather than later. And so that's the one that I'm currently listening to. And then currently listening to is The Walking Drum by Louis L'Amour. And so far that's fantastic. Just absolutely amazing. I like Louis L'Amour as it is. He's one of my favorite authors, but then The Walking Drum has been very, very good, very immersive, very atmospheric, with just an amazing story to go along with all of that. And so I'm very excited with that.
Are we ready to start the Q&A?
Yeah. So I've got some questions here. There will be some crossover questions. If you have any questions, put them in the chat and we will hopefully get to them. Samwise says, hey guys, good to have you here. Liam and Andrew both posted earlier, but they are no longer around.
Make them sound dead.
No, they're Andrew had to go to bed, I guess. He has to get up for work, which makes sense. Liam posted at 1:33 our time, so that's 5 hours ago. But Samwise is here, so that's great. Thank you thank you everybody who subscribed for getting us to 1,000 subscribers. That's been 5 years in the making, but it's good. We're actually a little bit late on this live stream. Our 5-year anniversary, BookTube anniversary, is March 16th, and then we hit 1,000 subscribers on March 27th. So it was we're a little bit late, but it was part of it was we didn't have time. Part of it was we needed to actually get it scheduled for us, and part of it was I wanted to make sure that YouTube didn't take away our subscribers and put us back below 1,000 again, because that does happen sometimes. All right, so I've got 3 questions here from Tori Talks. She's not here at the moment, maybe, I don't know, but let's do one of them. What genre would you like to read more of?
Or starting with me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I want to say sci-fi. I do read sci-fi, and I'm not really tied to any particular genre. I'll just read whatever sounds good at the time. But I sometimes feel pretty intimidated by it because it's oftentimes so scientifically based. And when it gets into the details of explaining how things work, I get a little lost. So reading more sci-fi is probably one. I just want good sci-fi recommendations that don't get bogged down in the details, because that's not my preference.
Thanks, Andrew. Andrew D. Meredith. I've read lots of his books now, and I really enjoy them. So, all right, what genre would I like to read more of? Well, sci-fi is also one. It's one that I have read significantly more of since I started BookTube than ever I had in the past. But even with that, it's still very low numbers. I need to bump that up. One of my individual quarterly goals for this year has been read at least one sci-fi. And so I'll get at least one sci-fi in per quarter, and that's good. That's helpful. I think probably historical fiction would be my other one. I love historical fiction, and I do read a fair amount of it, but I want to read, when I say historical fiction, I want to read ones that are not just set in a historical setting, but ones that are actually involved with historical events that are. So last year, I read The Rising Tide by Jeff Shaar, which is a World War II novel, has very specific events that are taking place that the story is set around. And that's the type of thing that I'm talking about when I say historical fiction, as something that I want to read more of. So I've actually got this question from 2 people, or a very similar question. One of the people that it came from is Tori from Tori Talks once again, and then also Marilyn. So what Tori says, what elements make a book a 5-star read for you? And then Marilyn says, what elements make a good story for you? So it's basically the same question. And we actually do have a video on this from, I think we probably need to update it, but it's one that we did make a long time ago. And that the 5 elements of story, we have, let's see if I can remember them off the top of my head. We have plot, we have character, we have themes, and then we have I can't remember the other 2. Do you remember the other 2? Let me.
But what are your current ones? How do you have an updated summary you want to give, or just new thoughts?
Let's see.
Writing style.
Writing style. That's more like a personal enjoyment. That doesn't so much make something. I mean, it does tie into a 5-star for us. So let's see. We've got character, plot, themes, world/setting, and then magic system, or we changed that to uniqueness factor. Well, we changed it first to special aesthetic, and then we changed it to uniqueness factor. And this is essentially that which makes the individual story unique among its peers in terms of like genre peers. So, for example, within dystopian, what's the difference between Hunger Games and The Giver, and Divergent and Maze Runner, and how are all of those stories individually different? And that's what we're talking about with this uniqueness factor. And it's the same thing with fantasy. Fantasy, the easiest way to do it is by that magic system, or the magic if it doesn't have a specific magic system. So that's just the idea of what it is. But then obviously personal enjoyment, that's a huge part of what makes a story enjoyable to us. Writing style, author, the voice, the subject matter, how in depth they go on the things that they're supposed to be exploring can even be part of it. So lots of things What do you think?
I think currently something that's been coming up as I'm just reading mostly for enjoyment, as I'm not super focused on presenting on this channel or even on my Instagram right now, is mostly personal enjoyment. But a lot of that I'm finding is coming down to a well-built story and a well-crafted story. I can read a book that's not line up with my ideals of a perfect world or a perfect situation within a book is what I mean. Of course, there's bad situations in a book. That's what makes characters who they are, and that's what makes interesting stories. But I can have things in a book that I'll dislike, but if the story overall is a really solid story, like, oh wow, this meets those expectations. This character accomplished things on her own. This really follows this story. This really speaks well over here and reflects the theme. If it's just a solid story and its construction, I find that I enjoy it a lot more and have a lot of respect for the author too. But usually I'll enjoy it regardless of the content if the story is well structured.
Yeah, and that's something where, I mean, I know I've talked about it a lot of times on the channel, and I think we probably have both talked about it, is the idea of putting the story first. The story has to come first, or else it's not going to be enjoyable to most audience members. And that can be with movies, television, books, whatever it is. If you don't put the story first, that the viewers, the consumers, aren't going to care. And so, and the way that story can be put first can depend on what type of writer you are. If you're a character-driven writer or a plot-driven writer or reader or whatever. So there are different ways that can be done. But I think in general, trying to say something with your books, trying to have a theme or a message or an agenda that you're pushing with your story, oftentimes makes for a less enjoyable story if you're not focused on telling the story primarily and then weaving those things into it as are natural and as are necessary to tell the story.
For anyone who's just jumping on, we're doing a Q&A today. So right now we're responding to some questions. We're about to start with another one. But if anyone has any questions for us, you can go ahead and put them in the chat and we will take a look at those. Yeah.
So the last one from Tori is, what classics do you still need to read that you're most excited for? There's a lot. I have a lot.
There's a lot of classics I want to read, but I had this list of classics that I had an idea for, and one year, the year that I read, I think the most prolifically, I was actually reading a classic a month, and I knocked out a lot of my list of TBR classics. So I don't know if there's one off the top of my head. I love to read. I haven't read all of the Jane Austen books yet, and I still would like to read the ones that I'm missing. But I don't know. I can't think. I haven't thought of that in a while. It's a good question.
I know for me, some of the ones that I want to get to this year are Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe.
You haven't read
that? I not an unabridged, maybe an abridged as a kid, but I haven't read an unabridged.
It's a good one.
I haven't read Kidnapped or Catch Fiona by Robert Louis Stevenson. I have both of those in one bind-up, which is why they come to mind at the same time. A lot of Stevenson I want to read. A lot of Dickens I want to read. I would like to go back. I never read Tom Sawyer. I read Huckleberry Finn, but I never read Tom Sawyer. I started to for like a writing class or curriculum, and I didn't like it, or I didn't like how it was being formatted and presented to us, and so I never continued on with it. But it was one that I would like to go back and reread. There's lots of them. Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court. That's another one by Mark Twain, and that's Arthurian. I've had a surprisingly large Arthurian. What am I wanting to say? I've been reading a lot of Arthurian recently, and that's been great. And so I want to do more of that.
There was one, I actually started a classic by Charles Dickens, and it's slipping. Great Expectations. I started that one. I had it on my Kindle, and then I don't actually read on my Kindle, so I haven't ever finished it. But that one I want to read. I want to finish that.
Yeah.
We have a question here too from Anne Judy Meredith.
So let's pull up this one real quick. I think that's a good sampling of some of the classics that we want to read. There are a lot. There's more classics than real books, or well, not real books, than modern books, basically, that I want to read personally. Andrew asks, what's your preferred hot beverage when reading?
For me, it depends on the time of day. If it's earlier in the day, I'll always go for black coffee. That's usually what I want. If it's in the evening, like a late night reading, which occasionally if I can't get to sleep or something, I'll read, and I want tea at that time.
Yeah. So. Usually if I'm drinking hot beverage, it's going to be tea. Occasionally I will drink coffee, and occasionally I will drink apple cider. Not very often for either of those. I enjoy them both, but the caffeine in coffee doesn't do anything to me at all. And so I would prefer to drink tea because I actually enjoy tea more than I enjoy coffee. And then as far as apple cider goes, I like it, but it's oftentimes too sweet, and I can't do a whole lot of sweet anymore. I don't know why, but I don't do sweet anymore. So basically tea, that's usually my go-to. Thank you. Nev's book channel, I believe his name is Neville, which is great. And then we've got another question here. I recently started reading classics and found myself enjoying them more than I thought I would. Why do you think classics get a bad reputation?
I think part of why they get a bad reputation, especially the more modern, the further we get away from when they're originally written, is due to this writing style. They're written in really many classics are written in a very eloquent and even long-spoken. Is that a word? Is that
long-winded?
Long-winded in a way, style of writing, and we're such a fast-paced society now. I think that it's hard for some people to slow down and to enjoy that type of writing. But I think also it's dealing with different type of societal issues, and sometimes they might feel irrelevant, or they might just feel like ancient history, and it's harder to relate unless you can really dive into the story and understand the characters. That's maybe some reasons.
I agree. That's basically what my answer was formulating to be as I was reading this question and thinking about it. I think it's the big one is writing style has changed. Our current means of story consumption is very different than what it used to be, and we have a lot less patience as readers to go back and read those stories, especially when there's a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out, the new flashy thing. And so why go back and read the old ones when these new ones are great? But like you mentioned here, they're very enjoyable. There's a lot of, they're classics for a reason. The ones that you don't remember, the ones that aren't remembered, and the ones that aren't considered classics are the ones that weren't that great. The ones that have survived are the ones that are amazing. So yeah, I think that it's largely we're scared to try something that we think is going to be difficult. And you go and read them and you realize that wasn't actually that hard, and it was an amazing story and well worth my time.
And some of them are a commitment too. Not only are you jumping into this world set so far in the past, so in detail, so flowery of writing, but then they're like 500 600 pages
or more. Yeah And not that fantasy modern fantasy doesn't have big books as well, but there's with modern fantasy, you expect it to be like that, and you expect to still be pulled through the story by the pacing, by the writing, by the intrigue, whatever it might be. And you don't expect that with a classic. You think, oh, this is going to be old stuffy, and you read it and you're like, that was
old stuffy, but great.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I was pretty happy with what a legend Neville turned out to be in Harry Potter. Yes. Yes, indeed. I do like Neville. He's a great character. We've got another one here. This is from Book Reading, Coffee Drinking. I believe her name is Mari. She's got a booktube channel as well, but I believe I've seen videos recently, but it's been a while. And part of that's me not having time to watch a lot of booktube. So if I don't watch your videos, it's probably because I just don't have time to watch anything at the moment, booktube or anything else. And so it's not because I'm purposefully avoiding you or anything like that. It's just I have to prioritize other things.
Question.
So, question, yes. What's the book that's had the biggest impact on you as a person?
I think we both have to answer honestly and say the Bible because it changes our life.
Right.
But as far as fiction goes,
yes.
Okay. For me, it's Little Women. It's just a book I've gone back to over and over again in my life, and seeing the way that the characters process the happenings of life in a very sweet and simplistic way, how much they prioritize family, how much that they love in whether it's their spouses or their sisters or their friends. There's just so much resonating truth in that book and it's just one that's so heartwarming too. It's been my favorite book for years, and it's because I always go back to it when I want something pleasant and loving to read. And if I want to, I also relate to the main character in a lot of ways. So that pulls me into.
My answer, probably not a surprise either, is The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, or both. They're both kind of, well, I read them both one right after another, the same year, the same month. So they're both kind of just like an integral part of who I was as a teenager. As a young teenager. I think I was 13 when I read them, and so very influential for that reason. I read them at the right time in my life for them to be as influential. But as I've continued through life and looking back, I can see how much they've influenced and how much they continue to influence who I am as a person and what I think and the way that I see the world. And Tolkien as an author and as a person has actually influenced that a lot as well. The more I study about him, the more I learn about him, the more I see things, and I'm like, this guy thinks very similar to the way that I think. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate being able to see that, and his influence on me his influence as an author on me as a person can't really be understated.
We have a new question here.
Tiago de Rocha Silva. I like your name. Hi guys, I'm from Brazil and I really like your channel. What was the book you liked the least about reading?
Okay, the least. What was the last book that really infuriated me? I feel like I ranted about it on the channel, but I'm having.
Yeah, I remember. I remember you doing a rant video on it.
What was that called?
You'd have to go back and look through it. I've got two that I DNF'd last year. One of them just wasn't for me, and the other one like actively made me mad enough to just be like, I don't want to read this anymore. And the one that I didn't, that like actively made me angry and frustrated and like I'd pause the book and I would not want to press play again, was Aberration by Jeff Vandermeer. This is the fourth book in the Southern Reach series. So Annihilation is the first book. I loved Annihilation. The second and third books I didn't love as much. They continue to go downhill. Book 4 just released last year, and I was excited for it. I wanted to see what the author would do with it, where he would take this story. And so I went and read it, and I read the first section. It's split into 3 sections, I believe. I read the first section. I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. This is kind of interesting. It feels a lot closer to the first book, and I appreciate that. And I read the second part, and I was like, okay, I'm still liking this. It's still okay. And then the third part hits, and there's more F words in it than you take all the other words combined, and it doesn't equal the amount of F words that's in that section. And so I couldn't do it. I was like, nope, I can't listen to this anymore. And I paused it and I started thinking about it. It's like, I have no desire to press play on this book again. And so I quit it because I could not stand it. And so that's one of my worst reading experiences, I think. Yeah.
I found one of the books that I strongly disliked. I can't remember if this is the one that I liked the least, but one of them was Comes a Horseman by Robert Luperulo. Mm-hmm. Something about the characters in this book, the writing descriptions, the way that they set the tension in the story, it was all personal preference. It's not like there was anything inherently wrong with it. It just was everything I didn't like, and I really, really disliked that story.
I got another question here. What is one genre you hope to explore more this year? I think we kind of answered that a little bit with up above with, was it Andrew's question? What's your
There was another question earlier today. It might not have been in here. It was what genre
right.
did we want to read more of this year? And I think I said sci-fi. I'm trying to think if there's any other genres that I would really like. I haven't read a lot of high fantasy recently. It's just not been a top priority because I like the pacing of other stories better, generally. So I could read some more high fantasy.
Sci-fi is a good answer for me. I mentioned historical fiction earlier, but the other one specifically, Arthurian fiction, Arthurian literature. That's something that I mentioned just a couple minutes ago that I have been reading more of it recently, and I am enjoying it so much. I'm very. That's one that I really want to read more of as well this year. So, what's your favorite Christian book, fiction and or nonfiction?
Fiction. It's a little bit challenging. A lot of the Christian fiction books I read are what I would consider, they're written by Christian authors, so they carry biblical themes in them, but they're not using the same vocabulary, if you will, and they're focusing a lot on the story and then presenting these themes within the story. So in those I consider those Christian fiction. So I guess a lot of Nadine Brandis's books really come to mind. I really think she has a knack for telling biblical truths through a story. So I really love hers, and some of Sarah Ella's books too are really lovely. And then as far as nonfiction goes, there's a book called Pray by Pat Briney, which I have right here. And it's How God Answers Every Prayer. It's one of the most impactful nonfiction books that I've read before for Christian, and it really gives you a different perspective on prayer.
So let's see. I don't know if I have a good nonfiction off the top of my head that I can think of. I know I've read some, but it's been a while since I've specifically read one that has blown me away with what it's meant to me. But for fiction, I can think of three options. One of them is the Wingfeather Saga by Andrew. I
don't think I
Wilson?
have it here. I think it's
Andrew
downstairs.
Something or other. It's not Andrew D. Meredith, but it's Andrew something. Peterson. Andrew Peterson.
Yeah.
And specifically, book 2 is North or Be Eaten, and that one of the series, that was my favorite. That was my favorite book of the series, and that's a great series. It's a middle grade series with a lot of adult themes, to be sure. Like it deals with a lot of adult, not content, but a lot of adult or more important decisions, more important choices. So there's that. But also, my brain just went blank. Andrew D. Meredith with his Collation Saga. I have specifically Deathless Beast and Bone Shroud are the first 2 books in that series, and they're high fantasy. He's a Christian, and the Christianity in his worldview comes very clearly through what he's writing, but he is not writing Christian fiction in the sense of preaching at you. And there's still there's truths and there's ideas that are presented through his books that have affected me, that have influenced my way of thinking a lot, and I really appreciate that. And then the other one that I have, I'm going to pull it out of your shelf here, is the Calculated series by Nova McBee. This is a YA thriller series, and I've just had the most fun with this series. Book 1, I was intrigued enough by to want to read book 2. Book 2, I was intrigued enough by to want to read book 3, and then book 3 blew me away. So
we're waiting anxiously for book 4. It's supposed to be out sometime, but
hopefully this year. I would love for it to be this year.
That would be wonderful.
But yeah, so those are some of my choices. There's other ones for sure that I've read. I actually recently read the first 2 books in the Space Trilogy by C.S. Lewis, and there's some interesting things, specifically in Paralandra, which is book 2. Some interesting things, some interesting opinions, conclusions that he comes to in that book that they may or may not be accurate, but I like the idea of them to some degree, and I like the answers that he comes up with. So those are some options. Got another question here. Who are your 4 favorite writers?
Okay. I think I can do mine quickly. Louisa May Alcott, the author of Little Women primarily. Nadine Brandes. I've yet to read a book of hers I dislike, although she does have one out that I haven't read yet. Maybe I can't do it quickly.
Well, I can do 2 of mine.
Nova McBee,
Nova
because the Calculated series is really wonderful and fantastic. And then, go ahead.
So my first one obviously has to be J.R.R. Tolkien. Just hugely influential author for me. Unfortunately, he's since passed away and he's not writing any more books, but the Tolkien estate is still releasing stuff from his notes, and that's great. I haven't read it all. There's so much that I need to read and that I haven't. So that's for sure one. Just with The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings alone, which are the books that he wrote and released, there's so much in there for me that that's absolutely my number one favorite. Louis L'Amour is another one that I could easily put on my favorite authors list. Andrew D. Meredith is rapidly rising to that place as well. And what's his name? Alexander Dumas. Mm-hmm. I very much enjoyed the D'Artagnan romances by him, the Count of Monte Cristo. So at least 6 books that I've read by Dumas, that some of them weren't as good, but all of them I have enjoyed to some degree or another, and some of them are some of my favorite books of all time.
I think my last author that I will choose is Sarah Ella. Sarah Ella. And we should probably answer some of the questions.
Yeah.
On that we've got in here.
Nods knowingly. All right. We will come back to the chat questions real quick, but let's go through a couple more of these. Jake, the Bookish Drummers, asked, what's one book or series you both agree on and one that you don't agree on?
Calculated is one we agree on.
Yeah.
One that we don't agree on that we both read or just maybe started reading. Because if we didn't agree on it, one of us probably didn't finish it.
Yeah. That's the hard one, because we've kind of found our tastes at this point and have decided that we don't agree with them.
I think
we that's what I'm trying to say. We found our tastes and they don't align very often.
What about Ranger's Apprentice?
We both
agree that we don't like them past a certain point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we disagree in which point that is.
Yeah, Ranger's Apprentice. We have different thoughts on slightly.
Yeah.
I don't know, because like he said, we have different tastes and we don't always cross where those tastes are. And if it is, it's usually a standalone, not a series.
Yeah, well, that's fine. There's a book. He does say that.
Oh.
What's one book or series you both agree on?
A book that I didn't like, but you liked. The Count of Monte Cristo.
Yep. That's
there it is.
Absolutely. The Count of Monte Cristo.
I'm the one who doesn't like that. It's not that I don't like it. It just, the book frustrates me. I've got problems with it.
That's a good question. So, which funnily enough, Calculated, the series, takes a lot of inspiration from the Count of Monte Cristo.
But I like it. I like the main characters.
Brittany asks, what book or series has most surprised you? For example, one you thought you would not really enjoy but did, or vice versa. One that had a completely different concept or theme than you anticipated, or one that was much deeper and full of meaning or emotion than you thought. So a book that surprised you.
This little tiny book that I have, and I have to look because I can't remember the title. I read it. I just saw the title. I saw a little girl reading it. It's called The Thing About Jellyfish by Ali Benjamin. And this had me in tears. And it was a lot more deep than I was expecting. I thought it would just be like a lighthearted little middle grade, and it was not. It was a heartbreaking little middle grade. So
I'm going to go the opposite direction, and one that I was more disappointed by, surprised in my disappointment, and that is The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro, I believe is the author. And that is one that is Arthurian literature. And I was hoping that it would go way deeper into the themes that it was exploring, and it just didn't. I didn't feel like it was satisfactorily deep in its exploration of the themes. There was a lot of themes of like memory and death and stuff like that, and I wanted to really explore that and see how that could be done. Ishiguro is one of those authors who's like critically acclaimed and stuff like that. And so I was like, maybe this will be something that's really resonates with me. And I was really hopeful that it would be. And then it just disappointed me a lot. Actually, I can say the same thing with The Once and Future King. And maybe this is an even better example. I thought that The Once and Future King did a very bad job at telling. I felt like it did not respect the Arthurian myth, which is really interesting for as prominent of a book within the Arthurian literature genre as it is. I did not appreciate it at all. There were things that I did, but overall, as a whole, I felt that it was severely lacking in respect and appreciation of the myth.
Okay, we're gonna lose this question if we don't catch it now.
All right. So we've got one here. If you could interview an author, who would you choose? They can be either living or non-living. Well, there's lots of self-published authors that I'm close friends with, Tori Tekken, Andrew D. Meredith, people like that I would love to interview, and I'll try and get them on the channel pretty soon here. But so those are some. I would have to go with Tolkien though. I just to understand more of his thought process, and I could ask him any version of any question about anything, and we could probably talk for hours. I could pick his brain for hours on what he's thinking and how he developed that. Things like languages. How did he develop languages? Obviously, it came from his understanding of them, but it has to be my author or my choice, my answer.
I kind of have a little bit of a random one, but I would love to interview the Bronte sisters, Charlotte Bronte, Anne Bronte. I can't remember the other one. There's one that starts with Emily Bronte, and I think there's a fourth one who's an author. I don't know. They write such interesting stories. I would love to know where they get the inspiration from and how their lives played into those stories, or if it was completely imaginative for them.
Yeah. Let's go through, catch up on some some comments here. Liam, heyo, congratulations, you too. Oh, we already did that one. It's a great book, though. This is in response to Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, it is. I don't disagree.
Tiago, when you started the channel, did you imagine it would grow so much? I'm sure we obviously had hopes. I know I did. But the goal for both of us, at least, well, I won't speak for you in this. The goal for me was to commit to something and work hard at something, to be accountable. That's what I'm trying to say. To be accountable to to myself in this reading, and to make myself read more than I do. And so that has absolutely 100% happened, even if in recent years my physical reading has fallen off quite a bit.
Yeah. I don't think I imagined it to grow this much. I don't know what I expected going into it, but it's definitely changed. My perspective has changed since we started.
Yeah. Liam agrees. I read Buried Giant with Liam, and so that's why he agrees with me. Facts. I don't know. I'm assuming that's about Buried Giant once again still.
It is.
Andrew, I sense an Arthurian series coming from a certain erudite that does go deep. Yes, I won't be putting this torch down. I know you want it. I have ideas. I am not a writer. I have ideas for series that I would love to tell, and if they ever get told, that would be amazing, but I don't know if they ever will. And whether or not it's a series, I don't know. The series idea that I have is more of like a fun retelling rather than a deep dive into something specific.
I'm not a writer yet. Yes.
Well, we'll see. There's lots of people pushing me for. 3 sisters and a brother in the Bronte family, I think. So.
I don't know if has their brother written. Does he have written works too?
I don't know. Sure. Never read it.
The Brontes and Girls. Okay.
But Tim the one that I've read by Tim Powers is on Stranger Tides, which is the influence for the Pirates of the Caribbean series. And I enjoyed it there was a lot of things that I didn't love about it. It delved too much in, or it had too much black magic in it for me to appreciate it, like voodoo, black magic. And so I don't like that, but it treated it as a magic system rather than as what it actually is. And so like I could handle it. And so that's interesting. But yeah, go for it. No reason not to, I guess, unless you don't want to. Liam wants me to be a writer as well. The brother was like about, ouch. Pretty much. All right. Good. We caught up on those, so we can go back and look at some more questions. Got a couple here from Nico from Nico's Book Reviews. What book has been the biggest surprise for you since starting BookTube, either in a good or a bad way? We kind of talked about that a little bit, but I think I could probably go on biggest surprise in a good way. I just read it recently. I don't think it was this year. I believe it was last year. One that just really surprised me. Go ahead if you have thoughts.
What's the Brandon Sanderson with the green cover with the girl with the teacup?
Trust of the Emerald Sea.
Trust of the Emerald Sea. I don't dislike Brandon Sanderson, but I always assume that I'm not going to love the new book, and I really, really liked that one. So I just really loved it. So it surprised me. I liked it a lot more than I anticipated.
I am going to say, there's a lot of answers. I'm going to say, I think this is the better answer. The Bloodstones by Tori Tekken. This was my book of the year last year. And I'd previously read her other book, which is Phased, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite thing of all time, and so I was expecting that same sort of thing with Bloodstones, and then I read Bloodstones and it blew me away. Very much one of my favorite books I've ever read, and one of my favorite books of the year. Also Dawn of Wonder. I read that one after I started BookTube, and that was one that really was surprising to me with how much I enjoyed it. Did you answer?
Yep.
Okay. And then, will anything ever top Lord of the Rings for you?
No.
It could. Honestly, it could. I'm not holding out. It's doubtful. I'm not holding out hope for it. I don't want anything. Well, I do want something. I do want to find something that is more impactful, more enjoyable, better than Lord of the Rings. I
should read
don't
Little
know
Women.
that I will. That's a classic that I do need to read as well. Yeah. And then he also asks, and most importantly, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if woodchuck could chuck wood?
I've determined that the answer is 9 logs of wood.
And the reason why we have that as an answer, do you remember why?
Yeah, I just can't remember what it's from.
There was a newspaper that had that question posed. It was like a
teacher with
comic.
A
comic asking that question. And on the blackboard, it was a chalkboard.
There's an illustration.
There was an illustration of it, and it had like this whole mathematical equation, and at the end it had it equals a stack of wood, and in that stack of wood was 9 logs, and so that's why we say 9 logs. Dunadan asks, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? And there is an answer for this, and I do not remember what it is, and I don't even know if I know the reference other than that it gets asked on like every Q&A ever. So I don't remember what the answer for this is. Patrick Ryan asks, have you found that your reading tastes have changed since starting BookTube? I don't know if I'd say changed as much as refined. And with that, even broadened to some degree.
Yeah.
Refined whereas we know almost exactly what we are looking for in a specific genre, but then broadened in that we have branched out into these various different genres, and we know exactly that refined taste that we're looking for in those individual genres.
Yeah, my answer was going to be it's developed more, trying new things, discovering that I like different styles, different writing styles, different eras of storytelling, and genres, of course, too.
Marilyn asks, we already asked one of these, what elements makes a good story for you? And we went through those a little bit towards the beginning. And then she also asks, what are your top 3 modern day fantasy series recommendations?
Modern day fantasy series as in set in modern day or as in
written
modern?
Well, both, because, well, yeah, they can be both, but I'm interpreting it as written.
Okay. Dawn of Wonder.
Dawn of Wonder.
Are we answering for each other or individually?
Individually.
Okay. Fantasy series.
Yeah.
Sorry, I gotta look at the
Calculated
catalog here. It's
taken
not,
as fantasy. It's more sci-fi than fantasy.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't throw it in the fantasy catalog.
I am going to say while you continue talking, oh, my brain just went blank. Andrew D. Meredith's Collation Saga. That's one for me.
What was the question again?
What are your top 3 modern day fantasy series recommendations?
Okay, that's what I was checking.
You don't rate a ton of fantasy series. I'm going to keep thinking.
The books that I recommend the most that happen to be fantasy is going to be Shadow and Dust by Kara Swanson, which is here. And The Wonderland Trials I recommend a lot by Sarah Ella. And those are probably the two that come up a lot. And Dawn of Wonder, I recommend Dawn of Wonder a lot because so many people will enjoy it. It's gonna hit such a wide audience.
Yeah. Let's see, top 3 modern day. So Collation Saga is one. Dawn of Wonder could easily be one. I'm going to pick 2 other ones since Kate already mentioned Dawn of Wonder, though. I am going to. It's a little bit older now. Is late 90s, early 2000s, and that is the Rune Lords by David Farland. It was unfortunately never finished before the author died, and so hopefully that one would finish at some point. But that's one.
I hope it's gonna finish.
He's
dead.
There's supposed to be another author finishing it.
Okay.
So that's one that I could say. Go ahead.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, it really is. Those final, the last, I say 3 books. Kate says 4 books in that series are just phenomenal.
I only say 4 books are phenomenal.
I don't know. How many do you? Well,
I like all 7.
Yeah, I like all 7 as well. But for me, the first 3 aren't like they're good, but they're not just
I see what you're saying.
Amazing. And book 4 is straddling that a little bit more.
The complexity
book 5,
is
6, and
advanced
7.
a lot more.
Yeah. Harry Potter. I'll say Harry Potter since you already picked your 3, and that's an actual legitimately good answer. So I said Collation Saga, Rune Lords, and Harry Potter. Yeah, those are good answers. There's plenty of other ones as well, and I know there will continue to be more as people continue to write. I didn't include any Sanderson on there. If I did, I'd say Mistborn Era 1 because I love Mistborn Era 1. Unfortunately, Stormlight Archive with book 5, I don't feel like it's up there anymore. But anyways, that's a different discussion. Was that all the ones that we had here?
I think so.
That's all the ones that we've received. So let's do some more comments here. Where are we at? Impossible.
What was in relation to Nothing Topping Tolkien?
Gotcha. Makes sense.
As best as your most impactful author or favorite author or something.
Like Book of the New Sun a lot. It's pretty much second to Lord of the Rings still. The only wolf, so that's Book of the New Sun is by Gene Wolfe, and the only wolf that I've read so far is The Wizard Knight, which is a duology, Arthurian adjacent. Enjoyed it a lot. I will need to read Book of the New Sun and the whole solar cycle at some point for sure. Britton says, hello there, wanted to pop in real quick before I got back to Phased. Cool, I'm glad you're reading Phased. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on that one. Liam's Lyceum, once again, writing from the grave. I just enjoyed Rune Lords immensely, and it's not one that gets talked about. He's such an impactful author and for our modern fantasy writing authors. And he was Brandon Sanderson's teacher. He was all of those romantic authors, like the author of Twilight. He was an instructor for, and there's a whole bunch of other very important, very influential authors, modern day authors that Farland basically taught them how to write, or was their mentor to some degree. And he's not talked about. I feel like because he was publishing around the same time as Robert Jordan, he got overshadowed by Robert Jordan, but I feel like he's better, significantly better than Robert Jordan was. But I know that's an unpopular opinion. Britton says, congrats on 1K. Thank you. Liam, what are y'all reading now? That may have been answered. I missed the start.
Yes.
Here we can quickly run over those again.
I'm reading Book of 1,000 Days by Shannon Hale on the back shelf there. I'm also reading Prague Counterpoint by Bodhi Theoni. Bodhi Theoni. It's book 2 in the Zion Covenant series, and I'm also reading Anne of the Island by L.M. Montgomery.
The 3 that I am currently reading are Tribe of the... I've never learned how to do this. Tribe of the Accord by Sean Michael Stone. It's that one right behind me. I am also reading Desperate Dispatches, book 4 in the Protectors of Brittany by Mike Molman. That's my ebook. And listening to The Walking Drum by Louis L'Amour. Liam agrees with me that he's better than Robert Jordan. That's
Farland.
David Farland, or Dave Wolverton was the other name that he wrote under. He's written a lot of stuff. He wrote, my first introduction to him was actually, can I remember what it's called? I have the book, but I can't remember what it's called. It's the second, or the first book. I don't have the book. I have the second book in the series. Anyways, it's the Jedi Apprentice series by Jude Watson wrote most of it, but he wrote the first book, and that was my first, or the first 2 books maybe. That's my first exposure to Dave Wolverton, and I greatly enjoyed those books. And then I went back and read Rune Lords. When was that? 2 years ago, and just greatly enjoyed Rune Lords a lot. Britain, I haven't read Jordan, but I'm sure the other guy is better than him. I have not yet started Sun Eater. That's one that I need to. That's one that is so popular that I refuse to start it because of how popular it is, not because it's going to be bad. Like, I know it's going to be amazing, and I know I'm going to love it, and so I refuse to start it. But no, I know I should. That's one that I need to for sure. While we are approaching 1 hour, so that's if you got any last minute questions, we'll kind of start wrapping this up here. But we wanted to do this in celebration of 5 years on BookTube. We wanted to do this in celebration of 1,000 subscribers, and so we want to thank you for sticking with us for 5 years and for continually supporting us and for getting us to 1,000 subscribers. 5 years is a long time for that for a lot of channels, but I appreciate it, and I like what it means for us, because it means we've built a very dedicated community, and the people that we are friends with are the people that we've been friends with since the start and have continued to build new friendships as we go, but we don't get inundated with them. So I appreciate that on that level. So
it's an introvert talking if I've ever heard one. Thankful
Yes.
for friendships, but I don't want too many. No, that's not what he was saying.
Liam says Sun Eater is pretty good. Liam was one of the first people on BookTube talking about Sun Eater. And I've needed to read it since then, but I haven't yet. That's the sci-fi you need. We'll talk. Yeah, I know I need to read it. I will, I promise, someday. Still need to read it anyway, heading out. Thanks for stopping by, Britton. Hope you have a good night. I don't know what time it is where you're at. I think you're in Oklahoma. So it's a couple hours, 3 hours. Yeah. Well, he knows his name is some Okie dude.
Okay.
Should try some DJ Butler. I know. I have. What do I have? I've got something of his that I got from from his newsletter or something like that, or free online on his website or something like that. So I've got something. I just need to read it. Andrew says, "Congrats, thank you." Liam says, "Proper success." What's it like living in Alaska? This is a good question. It's not as hard as people make it out to be. And it also can be.
It's cold in the winter, but in the summer we have a really lovely summer.
Yes,
so
we have it's a warm summer.
Mm-hmm.
Rains a fair amount and cools off when it rains, but when it's sunny, we're 70s, 80s, we can get into the 90s. That's not uncommon either. So
where we're at in Alaska,
yes,
should be clarified. We're in the middle, about right in the middle.
Yeah. 10:30 in Oklahoma and Texas. Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds right. I can definitely second the Sun Eater rec. Yes. I know everybody wants to recommend Sun Eater, and that's great. I'm glad. I will get to it. I do need to. It's kind of like Robin Hobb where everybody on BookTube was talking about Robin Hobb for a long time, and so I just kind of said I'll get to it later. But it is one that I need to. Sounds like something in Alaska.
It's not that hard.
It's not that hard. We're used to it. And that's what it is. We're used to it. We're used to the winter. We know how to prepare for the winter. We know how to bundle up. We know how to go outside and survive and not die from freezation. So
It's not a word.
Well, Robin Hobb's I know Liam and I have a lot of very similar opinions. So makes sense. Liam with the hot takes. Just facts. Arguments in the chat. Okay. Do we need to block you both? No. Well, thank you guys again for stopping by. If you haven't subscribed already, sure, please subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe, all those things that you're required to say on YouTube. Although some people say that it hurts you in the algorithm when you say them. I don't know. Probably does. I've been saying them for a long time, so probably does.
I don't know.
But hopefully the audio was okay. It sounds like you guys were responding to the questions or responding to something. So hopefully the audio was acceptable enough to understand.
Just a bunch of lip readers here.
Yeah. Still learning how to use my microphone. I don't experiment too much with it yet. So Liam says good audio.
Thanks.
That's wonderful. Thanks. Lovely Max. Oh, are you talking about our faces?
No, I was thinking I figured he was talking about the mugs because it's a pretty purple and that one's got all sorts of colors. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, we will wrap this up. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.